Alright guys, here we go. I did a little preemptive soldering. I already mounted up 3 motors, mounted up the ESCs. Yes, the ESCs are up on top because these bad boys are, like I said, are 35 amp. They're the 32-bit from FPV model, and they are the quadrant style. So like in the last video, if you didn't see it, go back, look at my playlist or in the video logs, and you'll see that we already soldered these up. Basically, each one of these corners is going to be a ESC. So if you blow an ESC, you can desolder it, replace it, and not have to replace a whole all-in-one, which is really nice. So the motors that we're going with are going to be, let's make sure I'm still in the shot. Look at that. For those of you who don't know already, these are the F60s. These are the 2500 Pro Edition. The silver winding is just stunning. It's like, for us FPV guys, this is like our diamond, right? Just seeing a motor this beautiful, looks this good, and on top of it has that good of a review from almost everybody who's flown it. So they are power hungry. Now this particular build out is for a, well, hopes to be a 6S system, so we'll see. We might just be pushing 5, but I definitely want to try 6 because I want to see how fast I can make a quad. At least that's the goal anyway. Alright, so this is the last motor we got to mount up. A couple of things that I use when I mount up my motors is I'm going to do the motor mount, the soft motor mount. You guys can see that there. Let's see, there it is. You can kind of get a glimmer of the outline. There it is. So basically you pull out all these little pieces that are pre-cut out and then pull the whole motor mount. And what I do is I mount it straight to this corner. So you'll see that in a second. Another thing I went ahead and did is I basically stripped down my X4R SB. And as you can see, I solder straight to the receiver here. I would do this, but this is a little bit more in depth in terms of getting it off, because you have to cut the housing, then desolder all the pins, and you have to make sure that you're actually soldering back to the correct pin. So if you don't have like a spare receiver laying around or access to one and you forget what pin you needed to solder to, you might be slowing up your roll for a little bit until you can figure it out. So I've already mounted or soldered in my my receiver and my plug. Something kind of crazy, I came out this morning and half of the shrink tube was gone. It's like perfectly cut, which is really weird. When I put it on, it was all there. So I guess I might have to desolder and resolder a new one on there. Very strange indeed. Maybe a little gremlin came and got it. But anyways, this is the Betaflight F3 board. If you guys don't know, I'm going to try and take advantage of everything that this board has. OSD, and everything that comes with that, including being able to change the rates, VTX settings, PIDs, and everything else through the OSD, which is really, really nice. And there's some black box. If you guys use black box for data logging or tuning or whatever you use black box for, it's all there. And this does everything. So if you use Spectrum, it'll take a Spectrum at 3 volts, or if you use Taranis, 5 volts, you know, all the standards for everything that we use in FPV. So all right, so I'm going to reset this up so we can shoot the motor shot and get that all mounted up. I'll be right back. Alright, so we got the quad all set up, and basically what I do before I do anything else is I usually measure out my cables. So what I'll do is I'll actually get this quad to where it's in the mounting area, or ready to mount, just like that. And then as you can see, my motor's leads need to be off to the side because now we have the arm in the center. So not a big deal. Obviously I did it on the other other 3, excuse me, right there. So just gonna play with it a little bit. And typically what I'll do is I will actually mount up my motor straight away. There we go. Let's get our hardware out, get this motor mounted. I'm not going to hard mount the motor just yet. I just do it for measuring out my wire and where to cut it. So you only need two motor screws for this. Now, one thing to point out is you want to make sure that you are not using too long of a screw, because then you will send that screw straight into the motor and you will end up with a popped motor because it basically arced or stopped the stator from spinning. So let's make sure that we are not doing that today. And if you guys want to ever see anything else, please just comment down below. You want to see programming, you want to see maybe a little bit more on like teaching how to solder, anything like that. I mean, just let me know, and I can always make a video on that if that helps you guys out. I know when I first started in FPV, I YouTubed the hell out of everything. So I basically made this channel because of how I used YouTube, and I wanted to be, you know, one of those people who helped other people who didn't have quite the answer for what they were doing, like myself when I first got started. So basically the way I did this is, you see on this one, so I took the furthest wire, or the wire to the left, and I put it in the first run, then just kind of followed it down the line, and the one all the way on the right or left, however you're looking at it, is going to be on the inside one. And I matched it to this side, and then I wanted to flip it for the other side to kind of give it a little bit of a difference. I was just being weird, I guess. So what it is the first one went to the last, and the last went to the first, basically. So we're going to do that same thing here, but I'm going to flip over the quad, because as you can see right here, it actually makes it much easier to solder to. So I'm going to get the soldering gun heated up, and then we're going to get started. Be right back. Alright, we got the soldering gun heated up. Now we just want to make sure that we stay in that same pattern. Maybe it's just my OCD. Some people don't care. I kind of care the way it looks. I just didn't want it uniform from every corner this time around. And as you can see, I already pre-tinned 2 of them because I was trying to make this video as short as possible. Kind of have a bad tendency of making really long videos. So I'm trying to cut that down and make them easier for you guys to watch, since I don't timestamp anything. So actually, before I do that, I'm going to zoom in here. Ooh, a little too much. Get this down here. Alright, so as you can see, I'm going to heat up the pad. I did pre-tin the tip of my soldering gun, or pencil, however you want to say it, and I'm just going to melt some solder onto it, just like that, and boom, nice little solder ball attached really well to the joint there. And let's measure out what we got. So like I said, the first wire on the outside of the motor is going to go furthest. So we got one. Middle is going to go in the middle, obviously, and then the inside one is going to go to the inside. So we'll start with the inside so we get that nice twist and layout. Boom, boom, boom. And what we're going to do, we're going to take our snips. Now, I want to try and keep as much of this wire below the height of the arm. I'll tilt it so you guys can see it. Let me zoom back out here. So And try and keep everything together nice and neat, and then flatten it to the arm as much as possible. Let's see, it doesn't want to cooperate today. Alright, we want it to sit on the arm just like this, because what we're going to do, instead of wrapping it with the expandable sleeve, like the 3mm expandable sleeve, I didn't want to do that this time, just simply for the fact that I didn't have a colorway to go with the rest of the quad. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to electrical tape right in the middle here and then zip tie up here, because the frame does allow you to zip tie right there. It actually has a mount hole right under, can you see it? There it is. I can get my finger out of there. There it is right there. So always double check before you lay your stuff in, and it looks like I am good to go. So we're going to flip it back over, and we're basically going to do it that way. We'll do the furthest first, actually. That's a middle. There we go. So we're going to get it semi-close like that. Let's see if I can zoom in just a little more. There we go. That's a little hard to see with those two there, but basically what I'm doing is I'm lining up against the arm and then pressing it, holding it, and seeing how much I actually have past the joint that I've already laid in there. So just that little bit, you're going to go in and nip it off. And then we're going to strip this off, just like that, twist it up, and let's tin it. Now some people, when they're tinning, sorry, I just bumped the camera. So some people, when they're tinning, they tend to put the soldering iron on there for way too long. You end up burning the wire at that point. Thus, the wire is not as fluent with signal at that point, because it's burnt. So it's got basically a ton of blockage in it. And you just want to make sure with your soldering, you're in and out. You're not sitting on anything that you're soldering for very long. You basically want to get it in, solder it, either drop a bead of solder or tin whatever you're tinning, and in and out. You know, the faster you're in and out, the better off you are, the less damage you'll do. Let's do this middle wire. And once again, I'm just lining it up just past the solder joint. And cutting at that same point. Let's twist it up. Get it soldered up. And the last one is going to be last. There's the last one. Go. And I like to cheat a little bit. Dang it, I just bumped the camera again. I like to cheat a little bit. If you look at the end of that tin right there, it looks like a little bulb. So basically, I don't have to pre-tin the tip of my soldering gun as much to get everything to reheat. I actually leave a little bit extra on the on whatever I tinned, so that way it reacts better when I go to join the two ends together, or join one end to an actual pad. Seems to work a little bit better for me. It's kind of something I picked up along the way the whole time I've been soldering and doing all this. So, all right, let's get everything put into place so it's sitting nice and pretty. Now, I usually just hold it there like that, and I'll make sure that I have a silver tip, in which I don't. So I'm gonna clean that off actually. Dang it, I keep bumping the damn camera. Sorry. Get my big old hairy arm out of the way. There we go. Nice silver solder. Line up our first line. Now I will try and keep the angle at which the line came from, and try and not to block the other pads, because it's just going to make it harder and harder to solder as you go down, as you can see right now. I should have done the inside one first and then the other two, but it's okay. I just like making it hard on myself. This inside one has proven to be a little tasking because it's kind of tucked under the frame there. There we go. We got that one all done. And now we got one more. And most of the time, after I'm done soldering it, I'll see something that I don't like, and either a position of the wire or something like that. And I'll go back and desolder it and solder it again, and desolder and solder again, and just, it's my OCD, it just kicks in and I just can't help it. It doesn't look pretty enough when I do it the first time, I gotta do it 10 other times. I know you guys are out there laughing at me right now. Like, what the heck is this guy talking about? Perfect. Looks like I might have to cut a little bit in there. I don't even know if I can get in there. Oh, I don't think I can. Might just have to melt some more solder. Let's see what we got here. There we go. All right, so we got everything tinned up. Let's take a look. All tinned. Let me get my hand here. Nice and pretty. All the wires are in solder. They're not on top of solder. They're not under solder. Everything looks nice and solid. And I do see some stuff that I really don't like, but we'll see if we can't make it work. I cut my wires a little long, so it looks a little funky. So I might go back and redo that. But anyways, before this video goes too long, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this was helpful. We're going to move on to installing the ESC and receiver into the quad next, and then the VTX and the camera. All right, stay tuned.